without too many words, you know that in this one lifetime, you at one point of it were totally unaware of what you were thinking, doing, talking about, where you were going, everything. Every idea that could possibly go into your mind, you were unaware of it. On some level, you were reactionary, and as time went on, you could become responsive. So now, with that being said, I have to say some big, big things. Before you knew that there was a color, white, black, red, green, brown, you weren't a color. Okay, and I just want to dive a little into that, because if people think about slavery, see, I see every living thing as a living thing, as part of life, because that is what it is. There's no way to deny that everything you see in front of you or around you, or everything that is part of life, period. You are just that, part of life. You're able to do different things than trees and bugs and birds and animals and houses and landscape and even other people. You're able to do other things because you don't have to do the same thing. Sometimes we're forced to do a lot of the same things, but that's because the people that are forcing us to do a lot of the same things, we're also forced to do a lot of the same things. They just got into a position of power. Now, diving back into the prejudice thing, I see every slave, whether they were black, white, Chinese, Irish, English, anybody who's ever been enslaved, as my past, as who I am, as what has become me, because it is. And that's the same for you. So, to make it even more at home, let's think of this day and age, if a white man and a black woman marry, or a black man and a white woman marry, or we're just using black and white because any mix of races, nothing against anybody of any sort, let's say, Chinese and Jamaican, or anyone that marries, okay, they have children. So now, we talk about prejudice and we get all mad about what has gone on in the past and how people act to each other, okay? What has gone on in the past, first of all, is not now, and if there is an interracial marriage, which side are they supposed to take? Are they supposed to turn on each other because of what happened before that they had nothing to do with and can't do anything about, except for forgive and do better then? Are they going to hold that against each other and get divorced? Cut their children in half because they're half and half? You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to put anybody down, and that didn't mean to get gruesome, but these are just to make obvious points. And on the second part of what I was saying, the second half, okay, first of all, it was the past and all that stuff. And second of all, it was the different colors and how people treat each other. I want to ask right now, any black people who consider themselves black, African American, who consider themselves any of those titles, because it's not nicer or more respectable to call someone an African American than it is to say black, than it is to say the slang N-word. It doesn't matter what you call a person. If it fits them, it fits them. It's just that. If they take it and say, yeah, that's me. If they take it and say, that's not me, then they're also right, because they would know themselves better than you. Anyway, so no matter what words we use to explain each other, talk about each other, they're just words that we never knew when we were born. That has to be a point you have to get in your head. Just like everything that is part of life is part of life. Everything you see around you is here. Doesn't mean it has to be part of here, but if it's a living thing, it is part of here. And you have no right to take it away, or else something would have a right to take you away. Think about that. So, I want to ask, like I was saying, the black people who consider themselves black, the white people who consider themselves white, or Caucasian, or African American, or any of these things that we say. When it comes down to it, maybe you're one of those people who says, oh well, how I was saying about the interracials, the mixed race marriages and stuff like that. If you're one of those people who's like, I would never marry a person outside my race. I'm a white person, I'd never marry a black or a Chinese, or I'm a Chinese person, I'd never marry a white or a black, or if I'm black and I'd never marry a white or Chinese person or a Spanish person or any of these French or whatever kind of names we call each other, Australians and Venezuelans and Swedish, whatever. When we get down to it, if you think people are prejudiced against you and say, I would never marry one of those people because they're prejudiced, what are you doing but being prejudiced? Because I'll tell you right now, if you come to meet me, you are no color to me. You are just a living thing. And it doesn't mean that you're going to like me more than anyone you've ever met in your whole life, because I'm still here doing what I can do to help the world. And maybe you like certain things that I don't like. Like, you like to be disrespectful to people. You like to spend your time just being angry, vulgar, and just watch gory stuff and do silly things like that. You don't have any connection with the world around you. You don't realize that you're made up of the things you eat, and you eat garbage. And so therefore you act the way you're composed. So those people, I want to say that if you wouldn't go be with somebody of that color, or you wouldn't do that, you're being the prejudiced one. There is no color. We are alive, making use of once empty space, and now, through thought, compiled infinitely on top of each other, in a spiritual math problem, not just a number math problem. That's only one side of a third dimensional world with four sides to make it seem even. You know, we talk about squares and shapes, and it's just so we could explain something to the mind, and as we explained it to the mind constructed it. And before we completely explained it, we explained it in non-time. So it started formulating itself from the fabric of spirit, and formulating itself through the molecules, through the rocks, and through the minerals, and through those things that made our bodies up until we were conscious enough of them to think we were people, and didn't realize that we are all the rocks and all the water and all the everything that we see. So we have a pile of snow sitting in front of us and not think it's us, but we could easily scoop a pile of the snow up and eat some of it and keep ourselves hydrated for a little longer and keep our life source going a little longer, because in a different form, what we really are is nothing different than the snow, except we have a brain making us think all these thoughts, thinking that because we look this way, we're way more complex than the snow. But can you make another snowflake look like another snowflake? You could try. We have all these cool tools, and why would we waste our time doing it? Because nature is that beautiful. You can't make two exactly the same people, because even if you reconstructed a person, you'd have to use different material. You could make it right exactly looking, but you'd use different material. So you can't make two of the same thing. There's no two of the same thing, because at the same time there's no such thing. The word thing is the, take away E, which is energy, ing. The-ing. Thing. Simple as that. We are just here, filling space, taking time, living life. All these words mean exactly what they say. Our names, our histories, every race, every culture, our words told the story, because we used our words to communicate, and by our communication we created, and by creating we forgot, because we got caught in our creations. We talk about news, we talk about fear, we talk about disease, we talk about violence, we talk about war, and what do we get? What do we focus on? We want to eradicate war. Then start talking to the people instead of trying to fighting the people. And the people who are too mean and tough to talk it out and then have to fight, we have ways to reach them now. We have things called internet. We have things called I hate to say courts, but I mean, if courts would actually listen, if we could get a new kind of court system that would listen to people, that would actually work out things that matter. Not about land agreements and land contracts and all that stuff. Nobody owns anything. Nobody owns anything. You may think you do, but you die and it's gone. It goes to another person. And at this point in time, that person isn't even alive, because by the time you live your life and die, that person's going to be born and then be at the age to buy it from you or get it from a bank or whatever. Those silly kind of things. Everything moves. Nothing stops. You think 20 years matters. It doesn't. When you've experienced all things and you actually experienced other lives, I mean, there's tons of gurus and tons of mystics and tons of whatever who conceptually get it. But when you've had a Christ experience, when you've had the trueness of God, you can't stop talking about it, because you hear so many people confused and you love them so much that you want to just help them break the confusion. Not because you want them to listen to you. Like, my life story is true, and your life story up to this time is seemingly true. So therefore, everybody's life story is true. So if you took something to be a fact, and then you relay it to somebody else thinking it's a fact, at that point in time it's true, until it's proven to be false, because to the person who proved it false, it was no longer true. And until they proved it false, apparently it was true to you, and it was true to the other people who didn't try to prove it false, or else whoever saw it to be true. And because we do the same thing with news shows, we do the same things, unfortunately, by accident, through war programming, through video games and violence and movies. Yes, we do that. We program ourselves. But what we should start doing is focusing on the hero, focusing on what the story is leading to, the happy ending. If we have to go through our lives continuously harming each other to see that the happy ending was death, because at this point everybody is in a hole, because we're listening to people who have no understanding of what's truly going on with our lives. We fix it by, for a while, we stop producing things we don't need. Nobody needs anything. So let's only concentrate on shelter and food. We don't even, quote unquote, need those. You could live without shelter, quote unquote shelter. You don't need a house. You could be safe in some place during a storm if you had to be, but luckily we don't have to worry about that inconvenience. So now we should start focusing on the great things that we do have, instead of worrying about what we don't have. Start working on all the wonderful living things we have around us, on all the wonderful parts of life that are with us. And this is not just some fool who has no idea what he's talking about. It's a human being, a man, a being, a God, a deity, an entity, and the one who has seen it and done it and created it all. And luckily, Dan Alexander, it happens to be the name of the person I am, and there's more than the person I am sitting here talking into my recorder, because nobody will give me the time to talk. When I try to talk, they try to cut me off, and they're more worried about their job or checking in the next item, because the world has them so stuck on an economic web that they think making money matters. Even if they have thousands and thousands of dollars in the bank, they need to work this job because they can't lose their job, because if they lost their job, all that money would dwindle away and they would die or something. This is how silly we are. And if we start getting and say, yeah, but I can't listen to that because I have to worry about my job and my whatever. No, you don't. You're holding yourself back. And so is everybody in the government, so is everybody in the military, so is everybody everywhere. Because honestly, I'm not seeing anybody truly understanding what we're doing. And it's not just because I think I know. It's because I'm God. You are too. But when you actually understand that, you would look into it a little more, and you would not crave, want, or expect anything. And when that happens, then you're right. But until then, you're confusing yourself. You're following along with some idea. You have no reason to be here, but at the same time, you're blessed to be here. So therefore, enjoy it, suck it up, and quit being babies, please. Because you're awesome. All of you. Every single damn one of you. Every single blessed one of you. Every single sacred one of you. Because guess what? There's only one of you. And there's only one of us. And it is I. God. You. God. Thank you for being here with me. And if you don't like me for being who I am, relaying the truth to you, I'm not sorry. I love you for your dislike of the truth. It's fine. You're allowed to do that too. But realize that someday you'll understand this. No matter how pig-headed you are right now, no matter how much of a badass you think you are, no matter how much of a gangsta-ass nigga you are, it doesn't matter. No matter if you're a honky-ass white boy, a cracker jack, any of that shit either. It doesn't matter. A chink gook, all those things. Who gives a shit? Do those words mean anything to you? Did they hurt your ancestors' feelings? Booty hooty hoo, fuckers! Guess what? You're here right now. Move forward. Christ says so. Buddha says so. Krishna says so. Vishnu says so. Every god in every dimension has said so. Because it is fucking right here. Me. It is also you. Because if you learned one of them, you think along the lines of one of them. If you never went to any of them and you opened yourself to what God really is, you actually get to understand it until you actually have been it. Boom. Enlightenment may be difficult because a lot of it starts with just the food you're eating. Eating a living thing that has memories, you won't be able to understand because its memories are in you too. Just like you drink water and water is in you too. Everything a deer thinks on a certain molecular, cellular level, your body starts thinking when you eat a deer or when you eat a cow or when you eat a pig. Those things in your body start thinking on a molecular level like those things. Because you don't know how your skin acts. You don't know why you have pimples. You don't know why, all this other stuff. We may have learned from one specialist in this thing, one specialist in this thing. But each specialist found a certain thing on a certain thing. And it doesn't apply to any other thing besides what they looked for. The people that listened to them and made sense of what they said and applied it correctly, using sense and doing it properly, got results that matched. If they didn't believe it would happen, it didn't happen. If they believed it would happen, truly believed it, or actually just used the law, or what we call the law, the hidden word, the one you don't speak, the one that's in you, then it happens. Now I have to quote-unquote work because Dan has a job, but I'm just taking up time, filling up space, because what else is there to do? But while I do it, I love every single person I see. I may keep to myself and wear my headphones because they're grouchy about their job. But if they're not, I'm like, hey, how's your day going? And I don't bring up anything about God and religion because God and religion has been turned into stories. Every piece of it. And even the word God is just a word. But it means what it means. It's everything you've ever had and everything you'll ever get and everything you've got. It's God. It's between all things. Put it in capital letters. Start a G with a leftward aiming arc ending at the bottom. Put an O in the center. Put a D on the other side. Capital D. That big arch, like a bow and arrow, the bow going the other way, holding it in the center. And the G has that little cleft because it's what you say. Because God is your creation. It's the word. G-O-D. God. And your mouth opens and closes. And the G is your tongue going g. Think about it. You are God. Each one of us. The human mind. The mouth. The body. The cells, the snow, the elements, the water, everything. It's God. Everything you've ever seen, everything you'll ever get, everything you've ever got, and everything you'll ever give. God. You and I. Me and them. Us. One. I. Until the end of time, and ever since we created it. Ever since I created it. I was there. And it doesn't matter. I can explain it all to you, but the problem is you won't believe it because it's not what you want. And that's fine too. So there's no point in trying to explain it. That's why he who knows doesn't say and he who says doesn't know. It's because they make things up for certain things. I won't have to make things up now. I could tell you, but I know no one will believe it because it's so crazy. It's more than any fairy tale, because a fairy tale is just one person's little idea taken from that. And imagine if a fairy tale made a fairy tale. Imagine the character inside a second string fairy tale wrote a fairy tale. And how far-fetched it would be. It's way more than that, because it starts at a very small level. And we are still at a small level until we stop eating ourselves. Alright, I gotta go. I don't have to, but Dan should work so we can do this on his own time. Peace.